more of a showy type of hero, whether it's a Queen of Pain, Mirana, something like that. And then sometimes they run into issues with core scaling, even though they will pick those cores later to protect them.
Yep. When they looked their best, when they won that game 1 against LFY yesterday, was actually when they were running a more LFY strat. They were running the Death Prophet in Maybe's hands. They were running the Bog strat, as we've kind of coined it. So we'll see if LGD maybe try and adapt more of that LFY playstyle to go head-to-head in this matchup.
All right, here we go. This one looks like the real deal, gentlemen. Let's get into it. Our Game 1 draft of your MDL Grand Final. This is a best-of-5 matchup. LGD-Gaming taking on LGD-Forever Young. Let's get into it now. Early bans to come out. Some of the usual suspects, if you will. Death Prophet and Night Stalker got to go. Kunkka receives a first phase ban. Now you got a lot of the other top candidates possibly out there. Your SKs, your...
I see them banning the possibly the AA here.
Oh, yeah.
If they don't ban the Earthshaker, I think it just gets snapped up immediately by LGD. So if there's any consideration there, and then maybe LGD are thinking, hey, like this looks like it's going to go Earth Spirit instead of LFY. So do we want to, do we have something ready for that in the first few picks as well?
Yeah, because I don't remember a whole lot of LGD's Earth Spirit kind of a play. So if they don't take it, do they take it for themselves? Yo, they do. Okay.
Ooh.
I don't see a whole lot of Victoria Earth Spirit, right? Am I crazy? I feel like, this is definitely an Afu thing, but then when I was talking about it a bit, and when I wanted to think about his counterpart on Victoria's side, I couldn't really, try to compare.
I think Victoria, yeah, he plays quite a lot of this hero. It's his second most played hero ahead of Dota. So less in this tournament, maybe going more back to the days when Earth Spirit was considered like more of a top tier pick, but it is something that he can play, even if maybe not as well known as some of the other top tier Earth Spirit players. And we did see the hero all 3 games against Newbie. He was actually on Earth Spirit today. So I guess perhaps preparing like, hey man, we're going to play this Earth Spirit. We're going to verse LFY in the finals. This is going to be a key hero. He's actually been busting it out non-stop today. Whereas yesterday, it was like the Earthshaker, the Rubiks, the Kunkkas. These were more his hero.
No, you're right. Okay. I'm happy. Welcome back, Earth Spirit, into the meta. At least for MDL's sake. Some things you could consider now that Earth Spirit's already going to be out there. You want to make sure your lanes can stay, good and safe and defensive. I like to point out how, you'll see some teams favor more mobile, like mid laners, so they can avoid the kind of confrontation Earth Spirit does bring. So, options like Qua, Puck, and such could be maybe a little bit more valuable. But for now, they're going to entrust onto getting an Earthshaker.
They take the Earthshaker themselves here. Wouldn't be surprised if they picked up a Puck second here as well. That's kind of been their preference as far as the meta picks against each other. And then if they end up having a core available that they like in that third pick, LFY will not hesitate to pick it up. So I think if you're LGD, I'm not sure if you'd be worried about a Drow. They've beaten an LFY Drow strat before, but LGD are gonna again usually secure their cores a little bit later. So I think they'd be okay with that. But yesterday's games, you saw that series. I mean, the first game, LGD played very well. They had kind of a more consistent lineup, as you mentioned, with the AA Death Prophet of their own. But the last 2 games, they kind of just got run over. It felt like they were kind of trying a bit different on the picks. They had the Magnus Ember Spirit in one of the games, and
yeah, that's the thing. Is like I feel like in the first game, we were getting ready to bring on the LFY like Bognus, and then they were showing us like, nah, you know what? Super on Magnus. Let's change it up a bit. They lost, went back to Bognus. It worked out very well. So it was hard to judge between, was it one of those cases you were talking about coming into this, is it LGD having one of a colder performance, or was it LFY just kind of getting more in tune with what works for them?
I think LFY definitely went back. This is the hero I was looking for, LG. I think they normally grab their 5 position early on. Shadow Shaman, the key thing over the Phoenix they've been playing is you can actually kill this Puck. They won that game 1 by killing Inflame 5 times in the first 10
That's right,
minutes. So
yeah.
Inflame had some rocky performances.
Yeah. Getting a hero that you can kill the Puck with, I think, is essential here. And the Phoenix doesn't give that to you, which has been kind of... They've run mostly Phoenix, Shaman, and AA as their 5-position role. That's going to be Yao's hero pool, so the Shadow Shaman is the one with kill potential on a player who sometimes has tendencies to die a lot in that offlane.
First support also into the later part of the game who could just draw that kind of attention, put that kind of a pressure on, just as one individual is really, really valuable as well, it would seem. And just the fact that he offers, 2 different forms of lockdown on top of it makes him just so pungent. Here we go, CK again, going to be receiving a second phase ban.
curious if we see them kind of take a page out of that. Before Newbie, the red teams were running it too with the Venomancer and Shadow Shaman, and it's also like a good. If they choose to run it safe laner on Ame again, which they've been playing recently, it's a pretty good matchup against the Earthshaker as well. So that's a possibility for them.
He had that really rough game yesterday on the Venom, but as a whole, the Venom pick has sometimes been a hero that's worked for LGD Gaming. The double wards, the push potential is definitely something that can be quite hard to deal with.
And gross.
Yeah, like you say, just gross, disgusting. You don't want to verse it, but you don't even want to play it half the time. But whatever gets you the wins, you take those wins.
Absolutely. They'll take a little bit of extra time to think about it, but they'll settle on banning out a Warlock, a heavy team fighting kind of 5 that LFY could consider here. And then the Faceless Void.
Okay, yep. Strong team fight. It looks like that's often kind of the trend when you're looking at these 5-man death ball type lineups that LFY like to run. If you want to beat that, you may have to fight into it. Split push just doesn't seem to be as prevalent as it once was, and the better approach is just to try and match them, at least with some element of team fight.
Maybe a Bat Rider could still be an option for an off lane for LGD, or maybe LFY if that puck does happen to end up in the mid lane. We saw Inflame play it yesterday a little bit, but
we've seen 11 play quite a lot of the Bat Rider.
Yep.
Definitely one of his comfort go-to picks. No reason that couldn't be the case in this game. But he also had a pretty diverse hero pool. The Shaker being one of his best. He's played the Tide Hunter. He's played quite the array of heroes. Even the Beastmaster we saw in the last game against Newbie.
There's a DK band, one of those consistent kind of beefy mid laners that LFY loves. I think they like this hero more than most other teams. There have been some other squads that I recall running it. I think or just like general like TNC ran it with some success, I believe, at Starladder, but and it was banned out against them a lot at Epicenter. And there's the
LGD's turn to pick.
DDC Visage. He played this hero a ton if you go back a couple of years, or maybe even further back. He was probably one of the players who has the most games on this hero in the competitive scene, although not so much a go-to hero for LFY over the kind of the recent months.
5 seconds remaining.
Does this make it much more likely or Drow to be an option for LFY? Drow, Visage, and Puck?
I could be. I personally don't ever really favor the Drow Visage. I think the lane is too weak. You don't even know what your offlane area is. You could very easily pick like a Legion commander thing that can go up against that lane. It's incredibly powerful in the mid game though.
10 seconds remaining.
I think the idea of the Drow works very well with the Puck and the Visage in mid game. It's just whether or not you can get past the laning stage. They will do it though, so you'll be right on that one. This is something that can be exploited. I think if you're LGD, you've got to really focus on this laning stage. A Legion Earth Spirit type lane will beat a Drow Visage. Visage 0 arm if you can get on top of him. Ooh, very squishy. Drow does nothing at the early levels, so I think these two heroes together have some serious weaknesses that, whether or not LGD know this, could be exploited.
I want to say I feel like I don't get to see a lot of Legion Commander in the later part of this event, but Legion Commander does seem pretty damn nice.
I think that's like the go-to in my mind when it comes to like, oh, you really want to bully and try and contest that enemy safe lane. Legion's one of the best. As far as other options go, may just want something with some like a Sand King type hero where you've got kind of a bit of a gap close. Oh, even better.
Ooh, another kind of boggy, boogie, venomy. Blah, blah. What about? I'm very curious about your opinion on this, Jack. Broodmother, a micro-wing bogger.
This hero can just like outright win a game for you, right? If you don't have the right matchup for it. I think like this, he's been receiving continual nerfs to like non-spider related abilities, like his combat abilities, whether it's the incapacitating bite or his ult. So, like usually you'll see this kind of as a last pick, and if it's like really a surprise pick and outright win you the draft. In this case, there is one more selection for LFY to deal with it, but at this point I really like the ability to just kind of collapse and destroy that safe lane. If they don't lane this properly, they don't have like too much lockdown or disable for it, they can't really do much about this Brood early on, and so they felt safe enough to pick it up here 4th.
Honestly, I think it's necessary to now certainly put the Puck in the mid lane and get like an Axe or Darkseer on the lineup of LGD. Neither benefit from the Drow, but if you want to really take it to the Brood Mothers somehow, I guess. I guess it depends how much value LFY see in the Brood in trying to counter it or deal with it or whatever.
It's tough because it's like, where do you send the Drow? You don't really want to be doing that Drow in the off lane against a Gyrocopter, Shaman, Earth Spirit tri-lane. They get a hero that is going to look to do a similar thing to the Brood, which is just bully the lane a bit. It's actually going to be a mid-bristle, so we'll see the puck on Inflame's hand in the off lane, something that can just be a frontliner. You really need that hero to actually be in front of the Drow, prevent heroes from getting past and getting to the Drow Ranger. As much as you maybe want to range mid, you need something tanky.
Man, I never thought I would be seeing a Brood Mother in this event, let alone the grand final, like game number 1. Because, like, when I hear a lot of people describe about how Venomancer is as a hero, because we've been hearing a lot about him nonstop with how the meta is, you know, he goes into a lane, he causes a lot of problems, people have to go deal with him. When they have to go deal with them, they end up putting themselves in a lot of trouble and, you know, getting hurt out of it and such.
10 seconds remaining.
You know, it almost sounds like the same profile as what a Brood Mother does to a game as well. You know, if 11 is able to take over a lane, let's say.
I think Brood is kind of in his unique category in my mind to any other hero because of it's kind of like the Meepo category where it's like there's no other hero does anything close to what Meepo does. There's no one that does anything close to what a Brood does. I think Venos maybe is one of the closer examples with his wards, but you put the wards, they don't move. The Spiderlings, super mobile. You can farm the jungle. You can farm, push the lane. You can win these 1v3 lanes once you have that Spiderling army. If you pick Brood against a lineup that can't deal with it, you kind of, as Jack mentioned, you can just win the game off of it. And this is going to be the big question for this LFY side is how do you deal with 11's Brood?
Alright, let's get into it. We've been waiting long enough. I'm ready for some notes, god damn it. Here we go. All ready, early smokes as we head into action. What is going on here?
We'll see how the lanes go, whether they want to do something like sending the Drow Ranger mid, putting the Bristle in the safe lane may be a consideration. Even the puck, Null Talisman, Triple Branches, this can be an in-flame mid puck with Drow off-lane. We don't quite know what the lanes for LFY are going to be just yet.
I will need to actually quickly change over my hotkeys here. I'm going to either do it fast or go like that, and we're fine. Okay, thank you so much for your patience. Let's get into it now. Alright, early ward towards the mid lane here, I would see. Any sort of shift up here? What's happening here? Now 11's taking his business, it looks like towards the top.
I think they want the Bristle to be in a solo matchup against the Brood, so most likely when they find out where this Brood is, if they see the web, they're going to want to move the Drow away from him.
Yeah, the Drow's headed top, trying to dodge that lane, it looks like, which is not going to be all too possible. They could still do this Drow Visage top against the Brood, perhaps with some Shaker pulls. He can pull that big neutral camp further back down with the Fissure block, so there is potential for this lane to work for a couple of levels until Brood gets level 3, level 4. That's when you really take over the lane with that Spiderling army.
And we'll see the attention that Victoria will put onto the lanes as well on his Earth Spirit. Puck, again, mid lane, not going to be the easiest person to kind of gank, but the pressure is always warranted here.
I think some mind games there from Victoria. I think he dropped the ward, and I believe the reason for that would have been if he's spotted out on that initial TP smoke, then if he's, say, spotted in the Radiant jungle, then Radiant will assume that he's placed his ward already because he doesn't have a ward on him. Why else would he be smoking out? But instead he still has the ward in hand right now to be placed.
As it stands, I feel like LGD have got the exact lanes they've wanted. They, on paper, can win all 3 lanes. The Brood has a good advantage. The bottom lane, they're going in for an early kill. This Shaman Gyrocopter have very high kill potential, and this looks like our first blood.
Victoria was a little late to make it in, but it doesn't seem like it's going to matter at all. They get connection with the roll, and indeed that will be the first blood rewarded to LGD.
And the Brood at top does get rid of the Sentry, so it's a bit of a Sentry battle whenever you have this Brood lane. You don't mind your Sentry being eaten as long as you eat the Sentry of the enemy at the same time, which is exactly what happened. So they've lost detection control in this top lane, and here comes the lane swap. Drow TP's bottom, Bristle comes top. I don't think Drow fares any better at this bottom lane, though, is the scary thing. This Drow has no support. This Drow could just instantly die in this lane if she's not careful.
Has been hiding within these trees, ready to sprout out. DDC is here now, though, but
And even just those two being there is not enough. Like they can still go on.
Yep, there they go. Yep, they roll in. They latch her on down. DDC is frantically flying that way. Like, don't do this, but they did it. Monet goes down. Welcome to the bottom lane.
Yep. And he just TP'd bottom as well, so he's not going to have TP to get back to the lane afterwards.
That's the walk of shame, Jack.
Yep. And though the Bristleback shouldn't worry too much about being killed by the Brood, at least early on, he's certainly not going to be able to stop the Brood from farming and getting some levels up. And they're just going to swap it right over again. Ame goes back top.
I feel like they didn't have to swap. I think the thing is with LGD, I think they win the lanes regardless. Brood actually can 1v1 in Bristleback. It's definitely preferred to be against that Drow Ranger, but it is a manageable lane. But Brood knows, hey, this Drow's going to walk back bottom. I may as well head back down there. I want to be in this Drow Visage lane wherever they go, and 11 is already level 3, 2 points in webs. Doesn't go for that extra spawn spiraling point just yet, but level 4 Brood is where the menace will begin.
Check out this mid lane just briefly here. 12 and 5 for Inflame against maybe who's 6. He's kind of doing in some work right now.
Yeah.
Drow Aura, I'm sure helps a lot, but oh, here we go. Top lane. Shackle's down. Rocket Barrage is out. They need a bit more, and they're going to get it. 3-0 start for LGD. Just taking it to LFY, punishing them in the lane setup.
And this isn't new territory for Inflame either, as I believe he used to play mid quite a bit. I think at least last year, like on the CDEC team, was it Avengers? He was also playing mid for them.
Move in for 11 bottom lane. They block him off with a fissure. They have the dust. They pop it. But can they even just chase him? Yeah, that's it. See you later, Spider. It was nice seeing you.
This is the weakness of this Drow Visage. Visage wants to be paired with a... Oh, kill it mid. Wants to be paired with a carry with damage output. Drow has 0 in the early game stages because there's no way... He's got even 2 points in Soul Assumption. In my mind, like, how are you going to get 3 charges on Soul Assumption, let alone 4? Perhaps from the Brood giving you Soul Assumption charges, but you're not going to generate it by going aggressive because all you've got is your right click. And this is really the weakness of this Drow Visage being exploited by LGD, and LFY have some serious questions to answer with their laning stage. The Puck was the one hero who was doing well in lane, and now that he's died, things are looking rough even in the mid lane.
Yeah, good roll in from Victoria, and is now rewarded with some boots to play with too. And they're pinging out this top lane, thinking about making it go on the Bristleback. They shackle him down, and rinse and repeat action here. It's Ame moving into the front, pedaling him with that Rocket Barrage, and Bristlebog is gone.
Well, it really feels like, to go back to the draft, that they wanted this Drow strat to come out. They did not hesitate to bust out a Brood once it happened, and LFY have to be seriously concerned at this point.
I wonder if it's something they ever had pulled out on each other, even in scrim play when Drow was maybe tossed around a bit, or if this is something totally unexpected to him. Kind of just a super intriguing way to start out a Game 1 Grand Final, because it does feel like that. Something that was sprung out almost, I don't know if it was baited or not coming from the Drow, but just seemed very yeah, situational.
You'll see this a lot in Chinese Dota. Like, the teams are so familiar and play each other so frequently. Like, you could play the same team like in multiple matches for different tournaments in one day, and then scrim against them. For these two teams from the same organization as well, when it comes to like scrim information and things like that, it's going to be a lot of like kind of cross-pollination there. So definitely have these wrinkles, and then the meta just kind of develops based on that. Like, they come up with different wrinkles to beat this or that, and they know each other very well. And then that can sometimes be an issue because then they go to, say, international LAN, and like maybe their meta is actually, the Chinese meta is way behind, and they don't know it because they're focused on countering each other. So.
Whoa, Inflame had committed the orb onto Maybe, and that's when Victoria jumps out from the back. But look at this, DDC rolls into action, helps him out, and is able to help him secure not one, but both of the kills in the mid lane.
Okay, not too shabby as far as LFY concerned. Those are the kind of kills they really need. DDC showing up, finding a place where he can actually get some Soul Assumption charges, get some kills for his team. Now they'll go for the Shrine up so they don't even spend that much time out of the lane, as Inflame even finds a regen rune for himself. This mid lane has been turned back in the favor of this LFY side.
It's a nice reversal, and it's kind of one of those things where if your lane is unlaneable, then you're either going somewhere else, or you find a way to make a play somewhere and then win someone else's lane, or balance that out somehow. Because if he stands down there, really, it's not contributing anything and taking experience. So you might as well go rotator trying to get a kill. So that's a pretty nice turnaround there.
It's good for DDC. Problem is Drow does not have a lane she can go gank. Well, DDC is going to get caught at the top lane. But for Drow, it's like you have an unlaneable lane, you have to go jungle. And the problem is you're not really getting that much out of the jungle. Monet's picked up an Iron Talon. This Drow is well and truly out of the game for at least the next 5-10 minutes, it feels like.
That feels bad when we have to be out of Iron Talon.
Oh, they might just kill DDC a second time, but he does manage to dodge the roll-in. Now it's going to be Inflame going into action, is able to drop down the coil. They get the kill onto the Shaman here. Victoria could also drop, and it looks like he will. Double kill belonging to Inflame Company.
Inflame doing his best to salvage this game. All 4 kills have had his name on it in some fashion, and he's level 8 already, having a fantastic showing on the puck.
This is going to be a lot to deal with here. 11 is getting closer to level 7. Super, is now able to get the more preferred laning matchup being back here at bottom, but he's still trying to even get to level 5. So him and Drow being out of the game for a while here. You already talked about Inflame, like putting in the legwork at the moment, but there's still just so much brewing on the side of LGD.
The nice thing is this Visage being involved in kills means very early level 6, so DEC can actually pose a very big threat early on. Often you don't get that level 6 until you get the tomb at level 10 minutes in, or even sometimes later on, if your 4th position wants it, so early remnants can be very impactful.
Move for Super on the bottom lane, and he's gone. Didn't even look like the Sonic Wave was necessary. He is just dismantled, and this tower will also be taken apart on the back end of this cliff. Time to get proactive and move forward. If they can begin to restrict the map earlier in this game, that means there's just less farming options out there for this Drow and Bristleback to catch up.
All 3 cores of LGD kind of in a good place where they want to be. It's the Drow and Bristle, 2 heroes that are both farm dependent being shut down. You don't pick this Bristle to be like an underfarmed offlaner who can still offer something just for his utility, his spells. You need farm on Bristle. You don't get in the lane, you often see the stacks, but stacks are not there. Jungle isn't there. The Drow's trying to just go jungle. And the end result is very tough for LFY to do anything other than just play a defensive farming game.
Yeah, and the contortions that they've had to go through so far to deal with this laning arrangement, like both the constant TPs, the rotations, it's really set them back a little bit. At the same time, though, when you look at the cores of LGD, like if you go back to maybe the big picture, the entire lineup is still relatively vulnerable, relatively squishy, and so they kind of have to play this game of almost keep away. Like they have to take these good lane matchups, turn it into towers, turn it into strategic pickoffs, but maybe end up avoiding the big 5-on-5 fights unless they have an overwhelming advantage. And so that could be something to look forward to for LFY, like a potential chance to turn this game around down the road if they can kind of hold the gates right now.
Ooh, may see a clash here. They were attempting to move on to Super in the bottom lane, but they run into Company nearby, and they're going to get hit with the coil. A call down is also traded. They quickly blast apart Ahmed. They'll follow it up with a Yao takedown, and Super picks up both of them. The initial gank target is able to sweep in and clean up, and now he's at closer to level 7 and feeling a bit more fresh.
LFY are just making better moves, better decisions right now, and I think they're at a huge drafting deficit. They had a huge laning deficit as well because of the draft, but they're remaining close and competitive just because they're making better smokes, better moves with the puck, they're reacting better, and LGD are just not really connecting with some of their ganks and rotations. They're perhaps playing too much around the Brood. A hero that often should just be left alone kind of to her own devices. You don't need to send these ganks her way. Go and try and focus, find the Drow in the jungle. Go and try and kill that Visage who went to the offlane. Like they don't need to be heading and helping Brood. Brood is meant to be a self-sufficient hero.
Top tower is under attack.
Looks like our Brood is going Midas as well. I don't know if that was acknowledged yet. So playing it greedier, prepping for a longer game. How do you think that? I haven't seen Brood in so long, so it's hard for me to gauge whether or not you think this is the appropriate choice or not, given the game.
Yeah, I've seen maybe a couple Broods here and there throughout like the TI qualifiers.
Catch the back end of that. It's Victoria getting rolled over from Inflame. He is just cutting loose on this one. Yep. Evens it back up 7-7.
The Brood builds I've seen have been more the Orchid without the Midas. It seems less greedy. There's a lot more fighting, early game focus, and that's where rushing an Orchid seems to be, from what I've seen, the preferred way of playing the hero. But even just from seeing 11's skill build, he actually prioritized leveling up Web over Spawn Spiderlings. He's playing a little bit less aggressively than what the other Broods I've seen, so I do feel like LGD don't have the same idea of how to play this Brood as some of the other teams, whether that's for better or worse, we'll have to wait and see.
He'll plague his way through the jungle though, as he farms through the bottom lane.
Here.
Yeah, they have a sentry right on top of his head. Okay, they got him. Coil set down, and they will let Inflame pick it up there. I'm not sure if they were hoping for Super to get the last hit on that one, but whatever the case may be, LFY continue to string together more kills and claw themselves back through what is a bit difficult laning setup and difficult drafts.
Yeah, that was a danger going from the early to mid game. The more you constrict the space of LFY, the harder it is for LGD to kind of take these fights. They have to be very careful. Silence is devastating to the Queen of Pain, and the Puck has a very good toolkit for dealing with the Queen of Pain and the Broodmother, especially like if he is going, say, for that, let's say after the Midas, most likely Echo Saber. I'm not sure if he'll end up going Orchid this game, or the Crest rather, that we see quite often on the Broodmother.
Has spotted Super farming nearby, has a Sonic Wave and everything. Can he just effectively blast this pig down? There he, yep, okay, yes he can. And he'll take the creep.
Nicely done. TP's to the high ground. TP, oh, Blaze to the high ground, can TP or not if he wants to. May actually just stay up here and wait for a backup. Actually, being, you know, he's getting a lot of good info and intel. He's perhaps calling his Brood in like, hey, we got some kills up here.
Yeah, the rest of LFY have migrated their way up and through that mid lane period. But back and below, we see the Shaker getting taken down. They will grab that tower. Here comes Ame, though, rolling into action. Drops the call down here. They look to go for the deny, but can't quite get it.
Okay, familiars either is DDC. Oh, being charged by the Brood.
Oh, but they just turn around and dust them and finish them off. A Sonic Wave rolling from Victoria, and they just strike right back. And look at this. They drop the wards, and they'll turn into an objective +1.
Yeah, Super's here, but with the wards down, he doesn't really have much chance to defend this one. Can't go in and right-click them with 4 heroes there.
Easy work of that tower.
Again, this is the big kind of result of the Drow being laneless and having no impact on the early game, is that she's been unable to have any presence on this game. Just jungling or providing utility hero almost. Will start to come online with a few items and a bit of farm, but for now it really is all on the Puck Visage to keep LFY in this game and to find those kills, which they've done a great job of. If not for this Puck and Visage, this game would be looking a lot more one-sided.
So if we saw the Brood already commit for the Midas, do you anticipate that the rest of LGD are going to take things at a bit of a slower tempo, feeling comfortable and confident with their draft and, you know, playing the economy game, pushing it into the later portions of the match?
I think so, because I don't think they have really a window to end the game now, or to say end it like very quickly in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So I think it's the right choice there, as we see. Yao is going to bite a top, and then the gyro, like the space that they are getting from this is a positive for them, obviously, so it's going to allow the gyro to farm up relatively comfortably in the jungle without too much fear of retribution. Pick up kills sometimes as well. Going for that Mask of Madness seems to favor on just about every safe lane hero that he plays. And so Super's going to go down again. Again, not too much pressure on Ame. They're okay with letting him like get free reign over the map and get farmed as well. And that kind of, they can kind of farm the way out of that condition we're talking about, where their cores are a bit soft. Once they start to get up these BKBs, once maybe has an Orchid to threaten the Puck, it starts to become a bit of an easier game for them to take, and that's how they capitalize on the early space from the lane matchup. It's not a lane matchup to directly win the game. It's a lane matchup to set up what happens later.
Yeah, just looking at that lamp, that draft does not really push high ground all that well. Gyrocopter isn't a hero that wants to go high ground until he has 3, 4, 5 big items. Brood, while he can kind of take those outer towers very early on in his off lane, doesn't typically go for the high ground unless he's kind of in a split push scenario where your team's fighting and you're going high ground against 0 heroes. So I think they recognize this game is going to likely go into the late game. They've got plenty of tools to not have to worry about a Drow Ranger. I mean, Drow's kind of talked about as being that mid-game push strat where you're on a timer, you don't want to go late game. Not to say that's entirely the case here. I think with the Bristle and the Puck, there is some ability to scale late game for LFY, but they need to have some map control so they can get that farm. They've kind of lost control of that Radiant jungle. They've just kind of barely keeping themselves in it by pushing some of these other towers and taking some control of the top side of the map.
And to piggyback off that point, like because of the contortions that the Brood gives you in that pick spot, like usually the Drow allows you to reach the mid game with an advantage, because if you're running, say like 2 other ranged laners, you end up with a solid start out of lanes and being able to push towers out, and that's what leads to the mid game edge that you can finish the game with. In that case, because of the contortions and laning that they've had, like the Drow, one of the Drow's greatest functions as an enabler of that lineup has just been entirely nullified, and then it becomes a situation where you're more about what the Drow does on her own merits, which is not as much, not as strong as, not as lively as you see in most other stages.
Ooh, possible bait turnaround here on the top lane. Inflame thinking he's gonna get another swift jump onto Yao. It was Victoria waiting behind.
That was a sick bait. Anticipating that move. Very nicely done.
Rated 8 out of 8. On the note of the Broodmother, it does look like he is going to be moving forward with that Solar Crest. Put that together with your incapacitating bite, and you're never going to hit the thing. Unless you got that KB or something.
This right-click Brood build scales very well. The introduction of talents gave Brood a 70 attack speed level 20 talent. This is one of the most insane attack speed talents in existence. I think only like Bristle has an attack speed talent, which is like, yeah, if he gets 50 at level 20, you're talking a 70 attack speed talent on an agi right-clicking hero that has an ultimate that gives you 140 damage and lifesteal. Like that's like the dream scenario for a carry Brood, to right-click people down with this talent. Level 25, you get the extra webs. You kind of always want to have that mobility in your webs as a right-clicking carry, so this hero is actually a much better late game scaler than he used to be. Brood always kind of had this story around him where you win the lane but lose the game because you become this big kind of money, like walking money bag that once you get killed once or twice, you've given away all that advantage. But Brood scales a lot better than he used to.
Here's LFY doing a little bit of a Ocean's 11 as they try to rob the Roche from LGD, but LGD are pinging it. Can they get there? Uh-oh. LFY, the body language is saying, we're a bit nervous about finishing this. They are going to be able to catch out the Brood, though. They move in, hit him with the dust. Now the dunk on the other side of the hill is going to be just a defensive play from the Earthshaker. He does have to buy back to return to the fight here. Moving into action is going to be Victoria, hit with a Soul Assumption. Ward's committed now from Yao, able to lock down. The Roche is finished. Ame is going to be able to snag up the Aegis and take it back and away. Both him and Maybe back off a bit, while on the other side we are going to be seeing Yao ripped apart from DDC. The Drow using the high ground has a bit of leverage here, but look at this. 11 is able to move and chomp on forward with the help of Maybe in that Orchid. They finish off in Flame. We're not done yet. It's Super, the weak pig, and the cow, Afu. Both to be finished up next, it would look like here. But Ame is taking a lot of damage here as Monet does a bit of orb walking, running down and out, but a full flat cannon is able to unload onto the Drow Ranger. That's going to cost the Aegis. They want Monet, though.
One stone left. Victoria, can he land the kick?
No. But the rocket's coming. No. I think they'll finally let her go.
Needed that kick to land. Woo! Still a good fight for LGD. Secured Roche. Radiant team used buybacks and everything. The Earthshaker using his. And they definitely come out on top with all the extra kills they got post-Roche. Losing just Maybe's Queen of Pain as far as big kills went. I think Yao also died on the Shaman, but... So,
they finally got space created, though. Finally deal with their spider problem, and LGD will still walk away. I'm pretty confident about that fighting situation there. So, how much does that hurt Jack LFY? They went into that with the intention they were going to get the Roche and kind of be able to still stay relevant and strong as we move ourselves forward into the mid game here. Now they don't got that, so what's next?
I don't think it's too big of a concern for them. Like they take a look at the cores. Like their 3 cores are still doing very well. They're getting a lot of farm. They're benefiting tremendously from the space that LFY does not really possess. You know, feeling a little bit antsy, and they have to worry about being picked off and ganked. With this maybe Orchid up now, even the puck feels very unsafe. He went for that Veil first build, so finally has his Blink Dagger up, but Rules is still a bit away, so he's got to be super careful about trying to lead his own ganks or counter initiation. So it's a pretty good spot for LGD. I mean, I think you have optimal map control. I think your gyrocopter's in a position to just really explode into the mid-late game with the farm that he has right now. And of course, Mask of Madness is
Victoria, roll forward, boulder smash, magnetize, but the fissure. Nice little lifesaver there.
Bails him out. Those silences mentioned without a Yule Scepter, this puck is going to play very cautiously.
Still, though, you can tell by looking at that aesthetically pleasing net worth graph, how it's nicely sectioned, that this is feeling pretty dang good for LGD. Still Broodmother residing towards the bottom half. BKB is next on the docket here.
Yep. Right-click carry build. You want that magic muni so you're not getting Fissured, Great Shield, Dream Coil, etc.
Yeah, and with that BKB up and the Solar Crest, at some point, if the fight breaks out, team fight, she's just going to sit on top of the Drow with right-click on. And the Drow is not going to be able to stand her ground for very long. It's going to reduce the bonus, obviously, and it's going to nullify a lot of the Drow's combat capacity. There's not much you can do about it, really, once the BKB is up, so it's going to be a pretty tough position for LFY when that time comes.
The Drow's going to be worried about a Brood getting in her face. It doesn't even end there. But looking at Earth Spirit, he is actually about to have a Blink Dagger as well, so even more gap closing capabilities for them to be able to get that little fragile backliner here. But bottom lane, we're seeing a shift come out. LFY, maybe a call to action here as there's an approach from LGD, but well, as I finish that statement, LGD are peacing out. So dodging things out for now. You know, sometimes they say that, you know, you have a Shadow Shaman on your team, you'd like to see them be very proactive with the wards, but going against the Drow Ranger lineup and such, I guess they're going to be a bit more fickle with it, but uh-oh. Yeah. Under a bit of pressure here, Inflame will simply grab up the bounty and back off.
He doesn't need to, because they don't have this. He doesn't need to play like the guerrilla pusher role in all this game. Like, it's not hard for him to be picked off, and the team isn't necessarily going to be taking those kind of fights where he goes over to do that. But instead, like, they do need him as a siege engine later on for taking high ground. So for him, like, you know, he doesn't need to do any of that stuff right now. They have the outer towers. They have pretty good tower push already, just based on their hero's abilities to spin out.
I mean, it wasn't more he needs to go do guerrilla tactics. It's just like, hey team, I got wards up, let's go take a tier 2, or let's go, you know, get on the objective forward here. But here we go, move in. Yao's hit pretty hard, but he got a good set of wards down while Ame is able to isolate the Earthshaker and just take Afu out of the game. Now moving in, it's going to be maybe unleashing the Sonic Wave. They've already dropped 3 of LFY, and it looks like the Bristle is going to be next. Cut him off from the front. Monet, though, on the low ground, tries desperately to help out with the Gust, but that is all she can do. It is a 4-man drop. They only lose Yao. A tier 2 is also going to be taken, and LGD may even keep this party moving.
Oh, it was Yao Shaman kind of leading the way there. He just runs in a few heroes, drops the wards, disables one, disables another. It was some big bull Shadow Shaman play, and he sets up that great team fight for the rest of the LGD squad, who are breaching high ground. Very farmed Gyrocopter. SMY BKB Mask of Madness will quickly bring down these buildings.
And not even a blinking Earthshaker at the moment. This is just happening all too fast, it feels, for LFY.
Yeah, hard game to get farm as a Shaker. You're kind of that 4-position player, but at the same time, whenever you've got a Visage on your team, that's a hero that's naturally going to soak up more farm.
Yep.
Even if it's Visage buying the wards, which I believe has been the case from start to finish, Shaker's just not had a lane at any point. Ooh, puck almost cancels it, DP out, but wasted the Dream Call. It's just really tough for this Shaker to ever go to a lane. There's a hero like Brood in the game, you go to a lane, you just get solo killed. Same for an Orchid Quap. So, no real easy way for Alpha to get up to that blink.
Just a slow, starving game it could turn into here for LGD. They do have the benefit of being able to swing over for Roshan, claiming that extra life in about a minute and a half. Jack, do you anticipate LFY have any reason to give it another go as far as smoking and trying to get that Roshan on their side, or is that just not even going to seem like a feasible action at this point?
I think they definitely have to contest it. I think if they give up this Roshan, it becomes a kind of a push go for LGD. So they definitely have to contest that.
It's going to be very tough. Yeah. Triple BKBs on LGD. It's going to make it all down to the physical damage at that point.
That's you, Drow. Good luck.
Yeah, Drow, you've been in the jungle, you know, for most of the game. Time to...
What do you got to show? Okay, Hurricane Pike, that's cool. All right. I mean, it is something. but that's one little thing. And I don't know, you got like 8 big things here happening on LGD, it would feel like.
It's going to be really rough with this Drow. This Blink Quap, a Brood who can just fly at you through webs. Gyro's going to run you down with his movement speed. And the BKBs means you can't even like gust them away, so... Tricky times for LFY's Monet. It looks like LGD do want to go for this last outer tower, perhaps setting themselves up to take a Roche fairly soon.
Yeah. Just LFY also scrapping for the bits of farm that are out there while they can still hold on to this time where they have one more outer tower to work with. No defensive move yet.
Familiar is very good at clearing these Serpent Wards, being able to just right-click them down, but at the same time, they can also be punished for it.
A little bit of a trade there, but okay, that's the puck coming in. There's the move, silence, but BKB's gonna get popped. Now he runs down and below while 11's looking to run into the base, hustling right to Monet. Turning around now, it's gonna be a shackle lockdown onto Super. He gets locked in his spot. The Magnetize gonna be unleashed, but look at this LFY fighting on forward right here after they get the takedown of the Earth Spirit. They're thinking about swinging. And LGD panic, just kind of splitting apart right now. Yao gonna be caught between 3, tries to turn around and blast off Fu, but will not be given. And maybe in company just hightail it out of there.
They kind of overforced it. They know they had this triple BKB advantage, but they didn't really connect with their any. I mean, they don't have a clear initiator as part of it. Like the Earth Spirit with the Blink, he can Blink Boulder Smash. That's their best bet as far as starting a fight goes, but they don't have a good way to guarantee kills when they pop their BKB. Brood, BKBs, runs at Drow, and Drow just Hurricane Pikes away. So Brood wasted kind of her entire BKB. I didn't really see where the Quap went, but most of these BKBs just were used to prevent them dying, but they weren't able to secure any kills.
That might have just turned into a great move overall by Inflame to just throw himself into the middle of all of them, jumps back, and the team just kind of backs off for a bit while the BKBs were all popped. But here now, a smoke move going back on the offensive is LFY. As they rotate through the jungle, there is a little spider nearby. He does hold a gem.
Yeah, I love his cute little neon green spiderlings.
This is the one rare immortal I finally received, and it was a Broodmother one. I didn't receive any rare or very rare on any other battle pass before, but finally I get one, and it's Broodmother. Congratulations. Do you want it, Jack?
Well, yeah, like as you mentioned just now, Gots, like even with the BKBs up, they don't really have a heck of a lot of catching, so it's not like they can really pursue them down with the BKBs, and then LFY just waits for it to go down. And so, if LGD are looking to end the game here, it's less about that and kind of patiently sieging the towers and using the BKBs once LFY have committed to a fight. That means once the Airshaker's in, once the Drow perhaps as well, instead of just trying to chase at them. So that's something that they could handle, I think, a little bit better at this point.
Ooh, a little greedy there. 11 wanted to get that sentry down, but everybody's
the gem, right? He just lost it. Pretty sure. Yeah, he fed his gem. Well, that's DDC's gem.
Afu's got it.
Okay, so he passed the gem to...
No, that's DDC's gem.
Huh, what happened? Brood had a gem earlier. Maybe he took DDC's gem and was carrying it around and returned to him. I'm not entirely sure on that.
Huh. Oh, well, look at this. Above. Buyback going to be forced out now, as it looks like Yao gets quickly picked. Do LFY just straight up leave, or did they even have the option? It's Ame rolling in from behind, and so it's going to be maybe call down Sonic Wave, but the Shrine has been tagged. Earthshaker can't quite hold on. Maybe he's looking to chase out DDC, but this fight is totally split apart because Ame and 11 are running on forward. Ame's going to get taken apart, but Monet now is getting bitten apart from the spider. And he's going to be dropped. Turning around now, looking to get a hold of Inflame, but Super is there, and the quills begin to stack. 11 is gooed up and can't seem to get away, so it looks like he'll be brought down with just one more quill pop. Maybe one more after that. Should be the end of it here. LGD couldn't quite clean their plate on this fight.
Die back from the Brood. They just not really executing in terms of some individual plays. Their team fights as well, like the Brood getting picked there, losing the gem, I'm pretty sure, and then the ensuing fight just not going great either. Their ability to get value out of these BKBs is really being limited by LFY. Just good 4-star plays, the Drow Ranger having that, the Shaker just being able to kind of disjoint the fight using some effective fissures, familiar stuns.
Oh, they still want to contest this. They still have Yao's wards. They make a hard push in on maybe.
They buy some more time. Brood will not be back anytime soon, but at least Gyro will be respawning.
I don't know if they can do this Roche that fast. They need Drow there now. Where is her Drow at? She is now teleporting to the shrine nearby, but she needs to get there.
It's like LGD may just be giving it up then, not heading it over in that direction at all.
And Alma's here. Wants to clear the mid lane, but yeah, the rest of them are still waiting behind, so they need to make the decision to either clear this and get over, or yeah, I guess roll out and farm. Alright, LFY. Where do we stand now, boys? This game was all favoring LGD through the laning phase. It was super grim for LFY, but now executing in these fights, they get this Roche.
Yep.
Do we dare say this game is even?
It's closer. I think it's still LGD favored. Their late game is still very, like, Gyro, Quap, Brood. You look at some of the ability to scale late game with like level 25 Quap, with that magic life steal, it's going to have Shivers, probably get a Mjolnir next. Brood with his talents, Gyrocopter is just insanely farmed. I imagine they'll eventually get a Silver Edge somewhere. It looks like Gyrocopter has it queued up. Once they have that Silver Edge, this Bristle gets a whole lot easier to deal with.
Yeah, maybe had it queued up before, but now that responsibility goes over on the Gyro. And this is kind of the warning. Like, if you look at Brood's itemization, item progression with buyback, like, he hasn't really added much as BKB the Solar Crest at this point, so not that scary of a presence. Can kind of hold the Drow in place and bog things down, but once the BKB goes down, he's not difficult to kill. And
oh, mid lane.
Initiation of the Gyro.
Yeah, they might have gotten an opportunity to open up on Ame. They actually forced out the BKB. He's trying to dance around without snapping the coil, but Monet moves on in. At that moment, 11 wanted to start getting the bite onto the Drow, and it looks like they're going to be able to bail out their Gyro friend.
Yeah, Buyback sent back a lot in terms of this farm. He was kind of up there, at least even on farm with most of the Radiant cores. He buys back, loses like 1.3k gold, time spent farming. He also just dies multiple times, so Brood is suddenly not looking all too scared. If this Brood had this Diffusal to try and help not get kited as badly and was starting to work on like a Butterfly or a Basher, I think you'd be looking at LGD's late game as being a lot scarier, but this Brood right now is kind of limited in her damage output because of the lack of items and farm.
And I assume, you know, forgive my ignorance, she can't just do the Brood split push kind of a thing, right? Is that option not available to her? Is there just too many risks out there from LFY's side?
It's kind of past the point. I think you're kind of right that there's a lot of risk. A Shaker can kind of almost solo kill you. One Blink Echo Slam, goodbye. And it's very easy to set up to defend. All you have to do is have a Shaker. Like 4 heroes can be showing on the map. Shaker just goes back. Blink Echo, as you blink Echo, a hero TPs in, finishes off the kill. So it's just not really feasible. BKB doesn't protect you because the Echo is instant. The risk is there, and also even if you're not dying, you're unlikely to ever actually damage the high ground. By the time you reach the enemy high ground, they're going to defend the lane. Puck, Bristle, whoever, there's plenty of AoE spam to push out the lanes.
11 dancing on through. Got to be a little bit careful there. Avoids the trouble of LFY, who are trying to frantically maintain some control on their side of the map. And as they roll themselves down through this mid lane, they still have an Aegis to work with, so they're thinking that they can kind of get to some tier 2 action right now in this mid lane, it looks like. Let's see if it's going to be in LGD's best interest to defend it. It looks like they've already smoked up. They cleared the perimeter for it. And if they sweep in from behind, they could catch some support stragglers here. It looks like a good job, a move-in call down. Quickly, Monet forces out the other direction, and they pursue her. She tries to turn around with the gust, but they were able to get a hold of her and quickly take her out. Now as they move it through the middle, it's going to be Super eating a full Rocket Barrage from Ame, and they'll be waiting for the second round. DDC tries to make it out far up north, but he is going to get caught out from one end. But look at this Super, is going to be able to get the rundown of Yao, getting just 1 kill for LFY, but this was a beautiful setup from LGD, coming in from behind and just ambushing him there. And they're not done yet. They're still pursuing onto Super. They slow him down with the poison. There's the grip, the slow. They hit him with the Orchid. Pops the Blade Mail. My God, this pig is so freaking fat! They hit him with a Sonic Wave and he'll finally get dropped.
Apu even dies trying to bail his buddy out there, and it's only Bristle with a buyback at this point. To the high ground, go LGD. Can
they do anything about it right here? Super's already trying to get in there and stacks up some quills. A tier 3 is going to be dropped, and they're going to just keep moving forward. It looks like this is going to be a set of racks for LGD.
Potentially. Looks like they may play it safe. They get this kill. Oh boy.
Yes, they do. That is a buyback death on the Bristleback. A BB for the BB.
Great smoke. Catching him from behind, jumping the key targets that are squishier. They ignore the Bristle, who has Aegis. They go on the Drow with the Brood. They go on the Puck with the lockdown from the Shaman. And the Earth Spirit. Puck goes down without getting too many spells off or dishing out much damage. Drow goes down with the cheese easily to the Brood. And any time where this Drow gets gone on by the Brood and doesn't have Force Stuff up, she's just dead in seconds.
Yeah, just a beautiful smoke wrap around there, as LGD were just able to anticipate that LFY were going to be trying to do something with the back end of that Aegis, and mid lane was going to be their best option. But now it's the other direction. LGD now heading up to the top lane. Yao's going to be committing in with the wards. They're looking to go for their second set and possibly even go for the finish here in game number 1 of this best of 5 grand final. It's going to be Bristleback still out for 30 seconds. And now it's do or die for LFY.
Yeah. They need to find a way to go in on this one, even without the Bristle. Megas is effectively GG.
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen.
Tier 3 will be fine, it looks like, for them. They actually really going to play this one safe.
Like Shrines, it looks like. They're going to have a Silver Edge soon on. It's back to the Clop. They just keep bouncing back and forth, Jack. They can't decide, make up their mind who's going to build it, but it seems they have to come to a decision.
Yeah, nice fight for them. Kind of, once again, playing to their strengths there, and maybe one of the first few times we've seen in recent fights where LGD knows the kind of engagement they have to take. They need to either find LFY in a kind of committed position or kind of lure them in a committed position, and then with their BKBs, just basically mow them down with a ton of AoE, but not the most durable cores. They can't get kited with their BKBs up. So, again, needing to knowing what they need to do there, and then picking a fight that was very favorable to them.
Well, we're going to have a AC on 11's Brood now. Life just gets more and more difficult for LFY. It's a 20k gold lead off of that team fight. The Rax is going down, the Bristle dieback. Gold plenty for every LGD core, and even the supports starting to look at some of those luxury items. So next fight gets even more difficult, and potentially you'll see that around the Roshan pit unless LGD decide they can go for that high ground without the Aegis, which in reality is a very possible feat for them.
Here's LFY creeping their way through the mid lane, but so is LGD. With some new toys now picked up, they're obviously going to be feeling pretty confident about taking it to any team fight. The amount of money you just get as an influx from taking down 2 sets of racks, nearly 3, and some shrine action is quite ridiculous. And now over on the high ground side, Monet, gotta be careful here. Afu will dish out the fissure to keep LGD at bay a bit. But this is going to be a fight potentially happening outside the base. There's his flame, getting the silence up on the Ame. He's going to pop the BKB, and he's just running at Monet here, trying to get anything they can from him. Well, on the other side, Ward's going to be committed here, and they'll be able to get the finish onto Afu. So that's a no dunk for 40 seconds.
Bristle has to be fairly careful against the Silver Edge now. Can't go as gung-ho as he'd perhaps like to in these fights.
Here comes the cross-country run down south here from LGD, looking to go for the Megas, looking to go for the win. 11, whoa, right to the high ground. Turns around for the BKB and looks to just run down the little lady. A shrine will be tagged. She gets some help with the Force Staff, but he just latches right onto her and continues to bite her all the way back into her base. But she is going to be able to make it back. But those shackles connect. The game is over, and this one belongs to LGD. Pretty much since the draft, they really take it home.
It was more difficult than it needed to be. At least my impression is that they heavily outdrafted them. They kind of won the lanes that perhaps